and I'm going to talk to you about a question that I get that I ask in every single engagement that I do as a business coach, as a hypnotist, as a marketer, as somebody giving advice. And I call it the Spice Girls question. And it's the most important question, and most people can't answer it. It's a question that leads to clarity in business, money, and life, but everyone always just laughs and then they panic a little bit. And that is the Spice Girls question, which is tell me what you want, what you really, really want. So just take a little moment here as you're watching, hit pause if you need to laugh, maybe to sing the song a little bit. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want, and just see what comes up in your body and your mind and maybe panic a little bit. Because what do you want? What do you really, really want? So, my name's Brian. I'm a financial transformation guide. I help people make money feel safe. And I work a lot with business owners. I work really well with family business owners. Work really well with small independent business owners. Really, anybody who is growing and trying to do something new. They might be trying to break some cycles in their family of how they run things. They might be trying to create a dream, something in their mind, doing it the way they want to do it. And I work as a business coach, a financial transformation guide. We can help you just rewrite your entire money story, how you uh, market yourself, how you manage your money, how things are structured. So, as we make those changes, it really all starts with answering this question of tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Because the answer to every single question is usually always it depends. So when someone comes to me and they're struggling and they want to know what to do, my answer, I can laugh, is almost, well, it depends. And it depends on what you want. And then from what you want, we can use all sorts of business frameworks. I use Business Made Simple, Story Brand. I was a teacher in a college and taught some global business strategies, and I've picked up all these strategic tools. And there's so many different ways to do things as a business. And when you're new to business, you don't really know what all of them are. And most business coaching is simply making decisions and choices of what frameworks to follow, what tools to use, who to hire. All of these decisions really all link back to what you want. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And when we start looping in money and business and understanding what we want, it can be a little bit panic inducing to try to define that and then to look at why we want it. What are we even here for? I love when I teach, we'll start with this tell me what you want, what you really, really want question. But there's also a great question, which is why are we here? Why are we here? What are we doing? What is the goal? So when I work with people, I love to use a little, you can see it behind me here, little tetrahedron. Story is our base. And then we work on the mind, we work on money, and we work on marketing. And when we use story as our base, I want you to understand that everything really is about story. We are all heroes in our own story, and we are the author of our own story. And if I were to quote Donald Miller, who has a book called Building a Story Brand, all great stories have 7 elements. They all start with a character. That character is a hero. That hero wants something. There's a problem getting in the way of what they want. that problem is multi-layered. They meet a guide who helps them overcome that problem. That guide has a plan for them, calls them to action, and leads them to success and helps them avoid failure. So we everything we do in life is story. We motivated by the opening and closing of story loops. We all play characters in other people's story. We're the author of our own story. As a business owner, we play the guide in other people's stories. So when we start thinking about story and being our own author, it's empowering to know that we get to be the writer of that story. And I help people rewrite their money stories. And if we're going to rewrite a story, we need to know what we want. So why do we panic when I ask the Spice Girls question and everyone laughs and then it's like, uh-oh, I don't know. And that is the magic of the work, my friends. And it's the magic of why it's important to have a guide to bring you through it, and a guide who helps you understand your own mind and really dig into what it is we really, really want. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And how does that affect how you run a business, how you engage in relationships, how you manage your money? I happen to believe that all problems in business, all challenges are rooted in some financial anxiety. We think about money all the time. We get into business and we think about money all the time. Often we think every money problem has either two solutions. One is make more money, the other is spend less money. Easy, right? Well, if it's so easy, then why aren't we just all doing it? It's because we have money stories. And these money stories can't be ignored. They keep us in the same loops. We have money stories, and it's a conversation for another time that, we didn't choose, and they run our life, they run our business. And a big first step to going through this journey of rewriting our money story, getting our businesses unstuck is that defining act of tell me what you really, really want. Because once we know what we want, if we go back to the foundation of story, now we have a character. That character wants something. Now we can start really understanding what are the problems that are getting in the way of that character getting what they want. And if they want to run a business that fits who they are at their soul, and a business that is profitable enough to fund the life they want for their family, now we can start, in that next step of finding a guide or having the right guide appear that's going to help us overcome that problem and get the success that we want. And I've worked with hundreds of businesses. I worked with a lot of business coaches. I've worked with a lot of clients. I've been coached myself. And I think sometimes we panic when we get asked that Spice Girls question. And then because we panic, we're not sure how to answer it. And this is really foundational to kind of why we're here and what we're doing and how we're going to now maybe make different decisions if we're not getting what we want. So it's hard to answer because sometimes we just don't give the time to think about it. Another big one, and I know this for me, is we get programmed by other people in thinking of what we should want. I call it the should monster. And every time should comes up in money conversations, usually is two questions I respond with, which is based on what and according to who. And often we get into, as a business, these things we should want, and they're usually other people's wants or other people's goals. We get maybe attached to some identities that we want. I want to be seen as a successful business owner. I want to be seen as someone who has made it. I want to be seen as a success, could be a want. Other times it could be I want control over my own time. I want to be able to choose what I do and when I do it. It could be control over the type of work you do. I know some business owners who work at such a high quality and high standard that what they really want is to be able to be in that driver's seat and deliver the standards that they want to deliver. That is a great want. But often when we dive deeper, it could be a want for your family. I want to provide a life for my children that I didn't have. I want to create a legacy. Others, it could simply be I want time with my children. I want to create a business that provides me the paycheck and the profit that I need so that I can vacation with my kids, so many times per year. Everybody has the power to choose their own want. And when we start with this question of what do I want, it really helps us create the rest of the story. And when we really look at those wants, and a great exercise to do is just list out all the things you want. I do that often. I even have a little note here on my table that reminds me that I want a nice home. Very happy with where I live. But when I think about feeling truly me, there is a nice home. Now, nice home and what that means is completely different for everybody. I have a certain size that I like. I like a kind of small, cozy, well organized, just a deeply calm environment. So that's what I want. And when you think about the time you want, the places you want, maybe places you want to, travel, and you start really unpacking those and defining them, now we can build a business and make financial decisions around that. Some people want to lead. They want to lead and they want to impact people's lives. They want to lead a team. They're wired for it at their core. And that is amazing. That helps us make strategic decisions in the business and the type of business we want to run. Some people want to connect. I want to connect. Part of my experience in this life is about connecting with people, meeting interesting people. I love enabling people and unlocking their magic. So that is something I want when I run a business. So I don't want to be, for example, creating courses where I'm sitting and filming. I want to connect with who I am. This is a video that I am recording live. I'm going to put it out there. I hope people watch it. But it is not something that I have spent hours scripting and editing and creating, because for me, it's about connecting. I want you to see that I'm a real person. I want you to see me move my hands around, my eyes go different places. I want it to feel like we're having a conversation and I'm inviting you in so that ideally we can have a real one in person sometime. Because for me, that connection, that community, that's exciting and it's something that I want. So I need to build a business that's around what I want. When we start knowing who we are and what we want, now it's easier to find guides that help us do that. I'm a guide. I work in financial transformation. So a lot of my work is around things like um, a family business who wants to say, I want this business to be able to survive without me so that I can go on vacation. I want this business to operate in a structure where I could pick my kids up at school, spend weekends with them, go on vacations. I want a business that will create the profit that I need so that I can buy a cottage and spend summers at the cottage with my kids. Could be I want a business that allows me to spend as much time as possible in creativity. Knowing what we want helps us now make decisions and understand what's in our way. As a transformational guide working with money and business, I am going on a journey with you. I'm going to walk alongside you. I want to empower you so that you can get to that destination that you want. But it starts with wanting to know where you're going and kind of why. And often when we start defining that, now it's easier to let go of some of the shoulds that show up. One thing I get a lot is people saying, I should be further ahead than I am. And, again, when the should monster shows up, we might ask, based on what? And according to who? Should be further ahead. What's that even mean? And once we unpack that, usually we can define a want that then creates us a plan of where we want to go for that. We can now really start applying our business tools to measure and define all of that. So, what do you want? Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Is that sense of panic still there? Is it? I know sometimes for me, it takes some courage to be able to stand up and say, what do I want? And it takes courage to say all of these shoulds that come after us to say, actually, I don't want that. I don't want to grind all the time. I do want to be in creativity. I do want balance. I do want to be healthy. I do want to be wealthy. And what does wealth mean to you? What is enough? I want enough. What's enough? And when we engage in these ideas and when we start unpacking our money stories that influence it, we can really stand strong in ourselves. And this is why this is the question that can create clarity in business, in money, and in life. Because when we really know what we want, now we can make those decisions in the short term that match what we want and fit with it. We can make decisions that fit with what our long term plan is. And almost every business owner has a real dream in mind. And we can, from a money perspective, keep that in mind as we go and build and make decisions. And all of this stuff becomes a bit clearer and a bit easier when we answer that question. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. All right. So that is the question. It's the question that most people can't answer. Congratulations if you can answer it. I would love to hear it, what it is. And then honestly, I would love to challenge you in understanding if it's your answer or somebody else's answer. That can be, I call it bucket of cold water moment, where we sit and we realize and we go, oh no, I've been following somebody else's want. You get to choose your want. You get to be the author in your story. I just get to be the guide. I get to be the guide that helps you get what you want, helps you walk through the journey you need to go on to get what you want. And if you're listening to this now, if you are a business owner and everything's not working out for you, if you're not just already getting everything you want and you're feeling great about it, then I'm going to bet you that there are some money stories hanging on. And these money stories are quietly getting in the way of what you want. And when we can engage in them, we can make progress to get that. So my name is Brian again. Would love to work with you. I would love to help you answer this question. I would love to sit and laugh with you as you panic and I panic and everyone laughs when I ask you the question. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And I would love to help remove that undercurrent of financial anxiety. I would love to help you just acknowledge that fear of failing your family. And I would love to help you rewrite your money story. And all you need to do to get that is send me a message. You'll book an appointment with me at brianrump.com. And it all starts with a free clarity conversation. So we can just define what you want and see if I'm a fit to help guide you to get that. Thank you for being here. I look forward to chatting with you soon.